Okay, let's get right into it. I want to tell you a simple story about two school owners. Now, on the surface, it sounds pretty straightforward, but trust me, it holds a really powerful lesson about a huge divide that's happening in business right now, and it all comes down to one thing: artificial intelligence.
So let's meet our two main characters, Anil and Sunil. They're good friends and they each own a school right in the same city. And here's the key thing to remember. Their starting line is completely identical. I mean, same size school, same number of students, same teachers. Everything is perfectly matched up. No advantages either way.
All right, here's a quick look at where we're headed. First, we'll dive into this tale of two schools. Then we'll look at the digital divide that separated them and the growth versus decline that followed. After that, we'll break down what the AI advantage really is and finish up with a lesson for all of us today.
So let's begin. A tale of two schools. And just to remind you, at this point they are on completely equal footing. Two friends, two identical schools, one city.
And, in the beginning, things were going really well for both of them. The schools were humming along, parents were happy, and business was good. Everything seemed to be on a really solid track.
But then, a moment came when they both had to make a critical choice. And this single choice, well, it sent them down two very, very different paths. This is where the digital divide begins. Anil, he decided to embrace the future. He looked at all the new tools that were becoming available and thought, you know what? I'm going to lean into this.
So, what did that actually look like? Well, Anil brought in AI-powered systems for pretty much everything. We're talking AI for fee management, so he knew exactly who paid and who hadn't instantly. AI for attendance tracking, no more paper registers, and crucially, AI for exam analysis. This meant he could spot learning gaps almost as they were happening. He basically had a real-time pulse on his entire school.
Sunil, though, he decided to cling to the past. He made a completely different choice. He figured, hey, the old ways have worked for me so far, and he decided to stick with what he knew.
So his toolkit looked, well, a lot different. Think paper fee registers, physical attendance files, just piles of paperwork. Exam reports, all done by hand. And here's the kicker. His problem solving was all based on word of mouth. He usually only found out something was wrong when an unhappy parent finally came to complain.
Okay, this table really lays out the difference, side by side. Let's look at the manager's desk. For his information source, Anil had real-time dashboards. Sunil, he had outdated registers and files. What about detecting problems? Anil got instant alerts on his screen. Sunil had to wait for those delayed parent complaints. And this all flows into decision-making, right? Anil could be data-driven and proactive, while Sunil was pretty much forced to be reactive and just go with his gut.
So, you can probably see where this is all headed, can't you? Let's talk about what happened next. Growth versus decline. How these two choices completely shaped the destinies of their schools.
And yeah, the results couldn't have been more different. For Anil's school, it was like an upward spiral. Student performance improved, which made parent trust grow, and that led to a flood of new admissions. But for Sunil's school, it was the opposite, a downward spiral. Students started leaving, parent trust just crumbled, and his expenses actually started to increase. Just look at the performance at Anil's school. He created what you'd call a virtuous cycle. Because he had all this data, he could improve student success. That led to super high parent trust. And what happens when parents trust you? You get a ton of new admissions. It was a cycle of pure growth.
Now, let's flip over to Sunil's school. It's a completely different picture. His lack of information meant he was always playing catch-up, always a step behind. By the time he even heard about a problem, the damage was already done. So student success went down, parent trust plummeted, and, well, new admissions just dried up.
Okay, so we've seen what happened, right? One school grew, the other one declined. But now let's get into the why. What is this AI advantage really all about? How did it make such a huge difference?
It really boils down to three simple things. First, visibility. AI lets you see the real problems right as they're happening, things like pending fees or which kids are failing a certain subject. The second piece is clarity. Instead of confusing files and spreadsheets, you get clear, simple reports that actually make sense. And finally, that clarity leads to the most important part, action. You can make smart, proactive decisions like arranging extra classes before a small problem becomes a huge crisis.
And this brings us to our final section, and maybe the most important one. What's the big lesson for today? What does this mean for every leader out there?
Well, the bottom line is right here. In today's world, schools that use AI grow stronger, and schools that don't use AI slowly fall behind. It's that simple.
This isn't just a matter of preference anymore. It's the difference between thriving and, well, not.
But here's a really important point. Even Anil, our hero in this story, understood that this advantage isn't permanent. It's not a magic bullet you can just buy and forget about. It's a tool, and it requires continuous use and attention. You have to actually act on what it tells you. If he stopped paying attention, he could lose that edge just as quickly.
So that brings us to the final question. And this one is for you to think about. When you look at your own organization, your own team, which story are you writing? Is it Anil's story of proactive, data-driven growth? Or is it Sunil's story? Which path are you on?